Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's midday Western U.S. regional forecast video brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. I want to begin first with a GOES 17 infrared satellite animation over the last 24 hours. We can see much of what we've seen throughout much of this winter, and that is most of our biggest storm systems are in the North Pacific around the Aleutian Islands or tucking into the Gulf of Alaska. They have on occasion come right down and pulled through the Pacific Northwest into the Intermountain West of the Rocky Mountains, but the problem has been a large area of higher atmospheric pressure sitting in this area, preventing a lot of these storm systems from hitting California. The main moisture axis from the subtropical jet stream has been here. And instead of starting north of Hawaii and taking aim on California many times like it normally does in winter, it's been further to the south and to the east. Because of that, if you look south and east in the United States, things have been extremely wet. This map over here on the left shows the last 60 days in terms of departure from normal, so we're talking about inches here. We can see the incredible flooding problem we're having in parts of the southeast, while the split flow out west has left California much drier than average, but still bringing in the moisture that's come here into the Pacific Northwest into the Rocky Mountains. Now, the results of this has been the map that you see over there on the right, and this is the map we need to discuss at the beginning of this video, because what it shows is calculated soil moisture anomalies. That split flow has left parts of California with a 4 to 7 inch deficit in soil moisture, and this is starting to become a kind of a critical time period that if we do not return moisture, we're going to be in trouble. Now, I want to make sure that I stay out of trouble in this video, and what I mean by that is the pattern change that we've been discussing now for the last couple of weeks, starting at some point after the first week of March. I've got some new information about it, and it is something that could be corrective of what you see right in through here. So we have got a lot of very important things to talk about, but before I even show you those maps, I need you to know that the pattern change, I've got to see more a consistent model performance before we make a big call on this. So let's get in and start talking about that. Now, California right now, when we look at the latest drought monitor, which came out last week, has got a pretty wide area of drought in it. But what makes this particular onset of drought unique is what we've had for the last few years. So the time series across the top shows the percentage of the state area, so it goes from 0 to 100%, covered in certain stages of drought, which are denoted by the coloring here. Now, we can look back historically and pick out, at least since 2003, time periods of pretty extensive multi-year drought. But since 2017, much of California, while we did build drought in 2018, and of course we've seen the results of the fires from that, honestly, to have the extensive coverage of drought, it's been, well, 3 years since we've seen it. So because this past year, which is denoted right here, has been good in terms of overall water health, we're still looking at the results of this, where we're sitting between 48 and 66% of normal on snowfall, not yet manifesting itself in a major reservoir shortage. Now, this could be a problem later on in the season, but right now, take a look at your current, for the state of California, reservoir levels. Many of them are very near historical averages. And again, that just goes back to this discussion. We aren't getting into this drier time period, this past 60 days or so, already having been in drought. So where has the snow been? We come back to this map. It's been around almost all of the rest of the mountains in the western part of the United States are showing excellent snowpack for this time of year. It's just what's going on in California. We come back to the same thing I want to discuss. Is there any sort of a pattern change coming in the near term? Because while our reservoirs look good now, we know that we will use that water very quickly throughout the spring, summer, and fall. So the story is going to be told right here in this animation. We're looking down over the North Pole. We're going to be watching for troughs which show up in the cooler colors and ridges showing up in the warmer colors. Now, just a reminder, when the western United States is seeing lots and lots of precipitation in February and March, there's typically a deep trough sitting in this area, and the subtropical jet stream skirts right underneath it, okay? What we do have to start this animation is a ridge in this area with the deeper troughs tucked away here over the north and little pieces that keep breaking off through, the other side of the Rocky Mountains. So let me get those drawings off of there and show you what I'm watching as we move through the next 15 days here. So this is the European ensemble. Let's pause it right here. We can see that as we move our way out toward, this will be Thursday, getting into Friday, and eventually into this weekend. That the weekend is going to be the next time period that we get, specifically on Sunday, that we get our best chance at precipitation. And you can see the trough sweeping through at that time. But do notice the ridge that's pushing here into British Columbia. So we're going to get high over low flow. Now the good thing is this low here is going to have a chance at bringing in some precip into California, but this isn't the main show yet. This is March 2nd where we're looking at here. Okay, as we progress forward, we see that getting out to March 3rd into March 4th, this first piece of this trough starts to dig and go right along the west coast. But remember, if you're on the upstream side of a trough, that's not the wet side. It's the downstream side of the trough, which is over here. But this is where the critical change begins to happen. We've seen in the models now that the ridge that was here looks as though it's going to try to push its main center, its greatest height anomalies, over toward the Aleutian Islands. And that is what I'm watching most carefully. Here's March 5th, getting into March 6th and 7th. Now, what's the significance of this? If we do push that ridge west, that will allow more troughing to build in through this area. And we've been saying that after March 7th, the models have been advertising the development of this pattern. So here's March 8th, getting into the 9th and the 10th. Now I'm just going to leave it right here. This is 2 weeks from now. And what do we see? The main ridge is pushed over the Aleutian Islands, and the trough that extends from the Arctic now sweeps through the west coast and back. And that has been the shape we have been talking about getting for quite some time now. That allows the subtropical jet stream to run just like this, cutting into California, not into Texas, over toward the southeast. And this could be the change in the pattern we need to see in order to break down, well, what has been and what will be in the near term a drier pattern. So getting us up to that point, this map shows from the European ensemble precipitation anomalies. So again, up to that point, up to Friday the 6th, we still see we're on the drier side of things. But it's after this that I think the pattern breaks down and finally returns moisture in the month of March to California. So let's see the near term first, then we'll come back to that discussion. Remember, as we play this forward, what we were watching most carefully was the development of our next big system not until this weekend. So I just went through the Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and you see that there's not much to be talking about in the west. We'll talk about temperatures in a moment, but that's about it. By the time I get into Friday night and Saturday morning, we have our next low that's finally pushing here into the Pacific Northwest. Now, how did that happen? Well, remember how our high pressure cell's been sitting here? It's now moved way back here, north of Hawaii. Now watch what this does. Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, getting into Sunday morning here. So what we see is with the high pressure cell sitting over here, this is our best chance at getting some upper level winds that are favorable to bring some snow to the Sierra Nevada, not much, but some snow, and that spreads through Nevada over toward Idaho and eventually to Wyoming and southern parts of Montana. Now as this low right here, Sunday morning, getting into Sunday afternoon and evening slides south, we could be bringing some better precipitation chances for California. But this isn't much. And I apologize for the train. I'm in Wichita, Kansas today, and that's the train running by outside. Anyway, if we look beyond that, March 2nd, getting into the 3rd, this is when the big trough starts to slide into place. Now, as that slides into place, we'll spread on Tuesday morning, March 3rd, getting into Tuesday afternoon and evening, another round of precip that's going to come down through the Pacific Northwest into California. But this is still not the change that I'm talking about. That comes after March 6th and March 7th. So if we just look up into March 3rd, this is total accumulated precipitation. And you can pause the video, take a look at the color bar, pick out your location, and see what you want to see. But I'll be honest with you, what's easier to do is look at this same map compared to normal. You see, because the flow is still split in the west, this is a drier pattern for us. Even though we do have a couple chances of precip, it's a drier pattern for us through the beginning of the month of March. But looking at snowfall, places that are going to get the biggest snow is going to be parts of the Cascade Mountains. But because these systems are targeting British Columbia more than the Northwest, the biggest snows are going to be up there in British Columbia. So few inches added to the Sierra Nevada, few inches in the Northern Rockies. That's about it for the western part of the United States. But look at this. This is now the 7-day time period ending on March 11th. So from the 4th to the 11th, all of a sudden we start to see a shift where our precipitation anomalies are less. And that's where things really begin to change. Because if you remember, taking you all the way back out to March 10th now, that's where the ridge has retreated west and the trough begins to take on that kind of reverse C shape we've been talking about in several of our videos. Okay, what does this do? This is what it does. This is March 5th through April 5th. And what you're seeing over there on the left are the brand new European weeklies. What has happened is with the movement of that ridge back in this direction, what we've seen now is the trough taking shape something like this. And that is significant because if the trough comes back in this area, the drier weather is here. It's in British Columbia, unfortunately coastal Oregon and Washington. But this changes up the precip direction, bringing more of our moisture out of the Central Pacific straight into California and much of the West. This is definitely going to be building up snowpack in the mountains, especially Sierra Nevada, getting to the west here into the Central Rockies and the Southern Rockies. And as a result of that flow pattern, look at what the temperatures do over there on the right. We can see that the flow pattern again, following the temperature contour here, and that is the change up that we need to be watching for. Now listen, it's just one model run. So I know we've been discussing that after March 7th, this is a possibility, and this is reinforcing those ideas that I had been presenting for the last couple of weeks. But we need to see more data. We need to get this within our 2-week forecasting window from our high-resolution models to see just how much of an impact this is going to have. But this is a pretty substantial change that we need to be watching very, very carefully. Now, in terms of temperatures, over the next 5 days, we're going to be well above average across the West Coast. You can take a look at it over there on the map on the left. But as we get out to day 5 through 10, we start to see the pattern shifting with the warmth back to the east. We go back over toward normal temperatures here for the most part, days 5 through 10, which gets us up to March 6th, okay? Now, after this, look at the differences here. Remember what our pattern's going to do. So this is no longer going to give us the sustained above average temperatures for the western part of the United States, which we have been seeing as of late. And instead it's going to take us over to a cooler and wetter, well, second week of March and possibly even beyond that. So that's the pattern I want you to be watching out for. Let's keep discussing in each forecast video to watch the evolution here, because this will be critical for our moisture in the state of California as we progress through the end of our wet season. So I'll keep you updated. New long-range video coming out tomorrow morning. We'll discuss it even more. I'll talk to you again then. Thank you.